We are now pleased to present today's webinar, the first in a series of Welcoming Cities webinars co-hosted with Welcoming America, Receiving Communities, Preparing a Culture of Welcome. I'm delighted to welcome today's guests who join us virtually from the cities of Erfurt, Germany, and Boise, Idaho in the United States, to share the success of these small to medium cities around the challenge of bringing newcomers and receiving communities together. We'll learn how innovative programs like these communicate a clear message of two-way benefits of immigrant integration. So joining us today are Petra Eveleit, Project Manager with the Strangers Become Friends initiative in Erfurt, Germany, Fremde werden Freunde, and John A. Reeves, who is Director with the Idaho Office of Refugees in Boise, United States. So now, please join me in welcoming our first presenter from Erfurt, Germany. We invite Petra Eveleit in to share her experiences from the very successful Project Strangers Become Friends, which brings together international students and local residents, institutions, and businesses in a unique co-mentoring program that welcomes the newcomer while strengthening local civic engagement. Hello, Petra. The podium is yours.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk about our project and to share our experiences with other cities in the world. We also think that good ideas should travel, and this webinar is a good platform to do it. Yeah, let's start. As you can see on the screen, we call our project also Initiative. As you can see on the left-hand side, it is an initiative where 4 partners work together. That's the University of Erfurt, the University of Applied Sciences in Erfurt, the City Council of Erfurt, and the Thuringian Institute for Advanced Studies. You might ask, where is Erfurt located? Erfurt is, of course, a wonderful city in Germany, and as you can see on the map, it is in the green heart of Germany, as we say, because it's like the heart in the body. It's in the middle of Germany. It used to be a famous city in the eastern part, no, in the former GDR, so that means it's located in the eastern part. And we have great history, as you can see. Erfurt is older than 1,200 years. Our population, around 200,000, a little bit more. And foreign-born people, it's not quite a lot, just around 4%. And 500 foreign or international students we have here in Erfurt at our 2 main universities in Erfurt. You can see one very popular landmark, our cathedral and church on the cathedral place in the center of the city. Like many other activities and institutions in Erfurt, the project Strangers Become Friends is something to build a welcoming community by connecting international students and local residents. That's the purpose of our project. So my colleagues and me, as the project manager, we want to bring together the international students with the citizens of Erfurt. Otherwise, it would be quite difficult for our students to get in contact with locals. So if we want to create a picture, we can say we want to build bridges between the 2 universities and the city of Erfurt. We also want to create opportunities for our students to establish contacts with Thuringian companies for doing a job or internships, to get contact with the home countries of our students. We want to develop a culture of welcome and diversity in Erfurt. Who are the hosts and host families? Who are, of course, ambassadors of welcome. In our project, we have citizens like single persons, families with kids. Some of our hosts, of course, are working, others are retirees, and also young people. So the age is from 18 to 80. And members of our clubs, for example, the German American Club or German American Society or German Japanese Club, they are very happy to integrate, for example, the American or Japanese students. Other organizations, local business people and politicians are also part or members of our project. What do students and hosts together? You can see some activities. For example, in each semester, we have a great welcome reception in the town hall of Erfurt. That's a fantastic ballroom where the event takes place twice a year, so that means each semester, because some of our students are here in Erfurt just for one semester as an exchange student. We have excursions. The next one will be on the 2nd of June to Kassel in the western part of Germany. For 15 years now, I've been organizing the so-called International Stammtisch. It's kind of gathering once a month where students and hosts, but also other citizens who are not members of our project or migrants who live and work in Erfurt take place. So there they just have a chat or practice their language skills, ask for good destinations for the next holiday, and so on. Hosts and students go together to exhibitions, concerts, theaters, museums. In the picture you can see this is our own exhibition with photographs of hosts and students. If the people, students and hosts are sporty, so of course they go on bicycle tours, they play volleyball, soccer. A very good activity is speaking the language of another country. So I mean, our hosts help students to practice to improve their German language skills, and our hosts are happy when they can learn a little bit Chinese, or they can practice their French, English, Spanish, and so on, so-called tandem activity. Our international students from more than 60 countries organize quite a lot of cultural events, such as international evenings in Erfurt. Recently we had a Chinese evening where Chinese students performed. They were singing, dancing, even cooking, and of course they invite their host to these great events, and also other inhabitants of Erfurt. Let's have some glimpses here. As you can see in the first picture, host families invite their students for Christmas or Easter. They go skiing together. They meet at the International Stammtisch and at other places. They do excursions together, go hiking. The tower in the middle, this is in the northern part of Thuringia. We had an excursion with 2 buses, 100 people. Hosts and students together enjoyed this great day. So what are the achievements of our project? The intercultural exchange goes out of 4 walls. So that means not only the student tells something to his host at home, but we have a great trickle-down effect in the community, because we have a huge network in Erfurt. For example, female students go to the Women's Center in Erfurt and talk about their Christmas traditions and customs in their home countries. So in the time of Advent or Christmas time, and women in this Women's Center, they enjoy this evening very, very much. And on the other hand, our students get the experience and get to know other people than their hosts. Our project, Strangers Become Friends, has got a quite good reputation in the region here. So we received several prizes, even from federal ministries or other institutions. Banks support us, and yeah, everybody is proud of having such person-to-person contact, and of course make new friends with people from all over the world, that's always a good thing. When other cities want to take over such kind of projects, I would like to point out that it is very important that you have very good contacts to newspapers. For example, within the last 10 years, there were more than 330 articles in the local newspapers, or we take part in radio events. We had almost 20 TV reports. We have our own homepage. We produce an image film, which you can see on our homepage, by the way, and download them. We work together with the city administration, with several political parties, organizations, and other institutions. So as I already said, we create a huge network. On the one hand, we want to inform people. On the other hand, it's an opportunity to find new hosts. And at the beginning of each semester, we inform our students about our project. We have flyers. They have to fill in the form, and I give them our brochure. So out of these 500 students, international students, 250 take part in our project. So at the moment, we have 247 partnerships with students from 66 countries. Isn't that amazing? Because 10 years ago we started with 44 partnerships and students from 9 countries. We're quite proud of this. What have we learned? We have learned that the intercultural exchange is a two-way dialogue. That's always a thing I tell our students. They shouldn't expect that only hosts are great helpers for them. Both sides want to have a benefit. I explained that already. And of course, our hosts learn a lot from our students, and our students learn a lot while being together with their hosts. Very important is to structure the project. So as you can see again on the left-hand side, you need partners who are responsible for specific things. For example, the managers of the international offices at the universities, the manager of the Thuringian Institute for Advanced Studies, and representatives of the City Council of Erfurt, we meet every second month and discuss and plan activities for the next few days, weeks, or even months, including the financial things which are very important. Storytelling, if you do good things, you have to tell them to the public, of course, and that's why we use film, radio, exhibitions, internet, newspaper, brochures, and so on. Yeah, this project is a good opportunity to build a culture of welcome. So we help our new incoming students, and some students are already here in Erfurt for more than 5, 6, or even 8 years. And we integrate them to private life, I mean into family life, and in our public life. So, of course, this is also an increasing of social cohesion. And our people here in Erfurt, our inhabitants, they get aware of different cultures in our city. So we dispel myths, and people get more opened for things which they haven't known so far, for foreign things. So we learn a lot from each other, and we are still learning. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Please. And I'd like to thank you, Petra. Yes, the project success is amazing. I think that's the right word. Thank you for sharing a well-tested strategy for creating a culture of welcome. I think we'd all like to join you and your students for one of your monthly international Stammtisches. So from one city to the next, let's now shift to Boise, Idaho in the United States. I'm delighted to introduce John Reeves. who is here to talk about strategies behind a multi-stakeholder collaboration between the Idaho Office of Refugees, Boise State University College, and the City Department of Parks and Recreation. To talk about an international summer youth program that pairs middle school learners from the refugee community with native-born peers to help build mutual understanding across cultures. So thank you, John, for joining us today. The podium's yours.
Well, thank you, Kim, for this excellent opportunity to connect with colleagues from at least 10 different time zones. I am so impressed. Greetings to all of you from the city of Boise and the Idaho Office for Refugees. My story today is about the integration of refugee youth. The story for the last 2 weeks, the news story of the year, really has been, as the New York Times put it, about immigrant kids adrift. How do we get to the root cause of the terrible attack at the Boston Marathon? This was an attack not just on one city, but on all of civil society. Theories are flying all over the place as to why 2 young brothers became radical jihadis, if that's in fact who they are or were. We may never know fully what caused their actions, but it seems clear that feelings of isolation and alienation and the disaffection that accompanies these feelings were huge. Tamerlan Tsarnaev, in particular, reportedly said he had no American friends. And now there's growing evidence that he perhaps never felt that he belonged in America. However inexcusable the actions are, and whatever the final verdict may be, we have to see such attacks as preventable. Preventable by finding ways and means for young people like the Tsarnaev brothers to cohere with society and to embrace what society has to offer as opportunities for growth and prosperity. It's another very loud wake-up call. So with the Boston Marathon bombing as a sad and tragic backdrop, I'm going to describe a small thing that has been done in Boise, Idaho. Boise is a medium-sized city in the northwest part of the U.S. with roughly the same population as Erfurt. We're the capital city and by far the largest population center in an otherwise rural and mountainous state. This year happens to be Boise's 150th birthday, so we're just a baby by old world standards. We have a foreign-born population of almost 9%. For the last 38 years, the resettlement of refugees from Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Western Hemisphere has caused this foreign-born population to swell and become richly diverse. From the slide, you can see that 13,000 refugees have been resettled in Boise since 1975. This represents 45 countries of origin from 4 continents. And I would note that the U.S. refugee program was conceived as a transitional program to move new arrivals quickly from economic dependence to self-sufficiency through early employment. It was an intentional strategy that lawmakers believed would offer the best chance for refugees to become integrated into American society. I'd like to mention that the chief collaborators on this project that I'm going to talk to you about, Paul Schoenfelder of Boise Parks and Recreation and Tara Wolfson of the Idaho Office for Refugees, are on the call, and we'll be happy to meet you in the chat room. I'll be spending the rest of my allotted time giving a brief sketch of the International Summer Youth Program now featured on the Cities of Migration website. But while this program is the main event of my presentation, it's important to acknowledge that it would never have come together without the solid partnership between the city of Boise and the Idaho Office for Refugees. The principal purpose of this partnership, which started long before the International Summer Youth Program did, has been to support the mayor's vision of making Boise the most livable city in the nation by improving refugees' access to community resources. The foundation of this active partnership is the strategic planning process that began 5 years ago in 2008. By intentionally including refugees and by extension all foreign-born newcomers as populations that are important to the fulfillment of the mayor's vision, the strategic plan has become a roadmap for successful integration. So the backstory in Boise is actually the nurturing of a community climate in which stakeholders and members at large invest in the idea that maximizing opportunities for refugee success, economic, social, educational, benefits the entire community. The International Summer Youth Program was born out of this inclusive, collaborative environment. Typically, across the U.S., we have a long 3-month summer recess from school, during which time the more privileged kids engage in a broad array of stimulating activities and programs, while the less well-to-do spend many idle hours forgetting what they learned in the last academic year. For students with limited English proficiency, the knowledge loss can bump up to several months of grade level equivalency, effectively widening the achievement gap in relation to their native English-speaking peers. In addition to the steeper learning curve, refugee youth also face real obstacles to social adjustment and integration in the public school system. So in the spring of 2012, to address this structural disadvantage for refugee youth, we joined with our existing educational partners and the city staff to come up with a plan to engage some of these young people in a creative program to help them bridge the summer gap and promote meaningful contact with their American-born peers. The planning group included Tara Wolfson, lead staff at the IOR, along with teachers and administrators from 2 school districts, refugee resettlement agencies, Paul Schoenfelder of Boise Parks and Recreation, Boise State University, and the YMCA. The concept that emerged for the program was based on youth peer mentoring and intercultural exchange. Starting small, the planners decided to develop the project as a pilot with 20 young people aged 11 to 14 attending for 2 weeks in July. Half of these kids were refugees and the other half were native-born. The goals of the program were to introduce refugee youth to the larger Boise community, to promote academic and cultural literacy, and to develop a greater appreciation of world cultures among all students. Because of the inability of refugee families to pay for a summer program, Boise Parks and Recreation provided scholarships for their children out of a fund already established to support low-income families. Program activities were directed toward creative exploration of notions of personal and cultural identity, discussing the principles of children's rights with regard to hunger, bullying, violence, and personal safety, learning about the community in which they are now a part, thinking about their educational futures with a tour of Boise State University, and having fun with sports activities. Above all, program activities were designed to engage refugee youth in meaningful exchanges with their American-born peers and to present ample opportunities for intercultural learning. So what was achieved during the 2-week pilot program? The truth is, we really have no empirical evidence to measure the impact or even the outcome of this short-term program with so many variables involved. No control group, no longitudinal sample, and so on. We're discussing how to document measurable change as we go forward. In judging the success of the pilot program, however, we can point to several indicators of a positive outcome. First, we received great media coverage. There were 2 newspaper articles in the Idaho Statesman and Boise Weekly, and 2 broadcast media stories on local television and public radio. We also received some positive customer feedback. Informally, we gathered impressions, likes and dislikes, and opinions about intercultural learning and overcoming differences. We'll look at a couple of testimonials in a few minutes. Finally, we can point to a high degree of satisfaction among the program developers. There is excitement and enthusiasm about the second-year program being expanded to include a wider age range. We're seeking new foundation funding to help support scholarships, food, and a stipend for a refugee co-coordinator. This slide shows a list of some very practical lessons learned which are now being put to use in shaping the program for year 2. Start recruiting students earlier. We learned, for example, that getting connected with the American kids was a bit more difficult than getting the refugee kids on board. We also found that interest among younger age groups is the strongest. This year, we're planning on 2 sessions, one for children going into 3rd through 5th grades, or roughly 8 to 10 years old, and the other for a slightly older group from 11 to 13. We also have decided to narrow the age range for each of the classes with a 3-year spread rather than a 4-year spread that we had last year. Transportation for refugee youth is essential. We know this from prior experience. Refugee parents, especially newer arrivals, simply don't have the means to get their children to the program site. In our case, Boise Parks and Recreation has been able to support this need. An international program leader provides an excellent role model, which is what we had in the first year, but may best be balanced with a native-born co-leader who is more familiar with the community. This year, we will try to achieve this balance by providing an on-the-job training stipend to an adult refugee co-coordinator for the program. The question here is, what makes this program a good candidate to travel to other cities? And we have a few ideas that we will share about this. First of all, collaboration and partnership make it possible no matter where you are. They're a matter of outreach and effort, and it's an inherent part of the work that I think all of us do on this call. So there's nothing really new about this. It's definitely transferable. In our situation, we have resources in place through the city and through the Idaho Office for Refugees that contribute to making the program possible. Students with the ability to paid a registration fee last year will do so this year. Similar resources, I think, would be available in most any city. If there's a will to do it, there's a way. The mayor, in our case, has made it a priority to make sure city programs, services, and resources are available to all. And as a result of all of this, the cost of the program to any one partner has been quite small, the largest expenses being the provision of scholarships to low-income children and staff expenses that have been absorbed by city and IOR budgets. These are the testimonials that I referred to a few minutes ago. I'd like to share with you. A 12-year-old student after the program said, "I thought the people from different countries all around the world would be so different. When I came here, I realized that everybody is just the same. Some people have different colors of skin, or some people speak different languages, but that's it." And one of the parents of a student in the program said, "The best thing about the program was that they did fun things together and saw their commonalities above everything. They could learn about each other and have fun together, which obviously reduces the perception of refugees as being the other." Finally, I'd like to share just a few thoughts on what it means to be welcoming. It's more than an attitude of acceptance and respect, as important as those are. It's more than opening your door to visitors and guests. To me, welcoming is a fundamental acknowledgement that we are one human family connected by our common human existence. And at the heart of welcoming is the necessity of promoting all human expression and fostering the fulfillment of each individual's unique gifts and talents. So this idea of welcoming provides the answer to the next question: what's in it for the receiving community? Welcoming is a strategy for human development, encouraging fulfillment of the potential we all have. It's likewise a strategy for social cohesion. People who believe they have opportunity, who have the chance to achieve their potential, are much more likely to have a sense of belonging to the community that welcomes them. And finally, it's a strategy for prosperity, which is the natural result of human development and social cohesion. So with that, I will leave the contact information on the screen for those of you interested in copying that down, and I will hand the mic back to Kim. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Jan. Thank you for showing us what great city leadership and partnerships can achieve, and for sharing this program that is making sure that all kids, not just immigrant kids, but all kids in Boise are thriving at home, at school, and in the welcoming community that you're clearly creating there. So I hope everyone has learned as much as we have from these innovative and practical ideas. You know what we say, good ideas travel. So you'll notice that there's a new poll on the screen. Let us know by answering the poll if you would adopt today's good ideas in your own city. You can cast your vote at any time before the session ends. The poll will remain on screen. So thank you again. We've now concluded the formal presentation part of our webinar. It's time for the Q&A. So please continue to, I see questions coming in, which is wonderful, and I want to encourage everyone to continue to submit questions into the Q&A box while I invite Susan down Carcos to come back and to ask the first question. Susan,
Thanks,
go ahead.
Thanks, Kim, and hello again, everyone. So to the presenters, my question is, you know, core to the success of Welcoming Cities initiatives like these is your clear position on the two-way benefits of immigrant integration. Can you share with us a little bit more about why this message is so important? Petra, maybe you want to go first?
Okay, so whenever two people or two organizations do something or work together, both sides want to have benefits of the relationship, right? That's normal. Students want to improve their German outside the campus, want to learn more about German culture, want to meet locals to find out what kind of people are Germans, and our hosts do that with pleasure. And on the other hand, hosts would like to improve their language skills, practice their English, Spanish, French, and they want to learn more about their cultures firsthand. Especially in the eastern part of Germany, people are not used to live together with migrants, for example, from Arabic or Asian countries or people from the West, and they are not used to their cultures, behavior, religions. For example, they want to learn more about Islam, and our media very often focus only on negative things. But it is so wonderful to meet young people from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Syria, China, and many more countries. By the way, next to me there is a student from Afghanistan, Akir, who is a member of our project and has a wonderful host family. If you have questions to him, please feel free to ask what he thinks about our project. And while having these personal contacts, our hosts get their own picture of these people. That's why this person-to-person contact is so important for us. And our hosts, learn very much from our students. And additionally, we organize workshops to share all these experiences. And for the city in general, it is an enrichment to have so many different cultures. Maybe that's it. Right. So we have, with our project, we have brought foreign cultures to Erfurt and get people more open-minded.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Jan, let's hear a little bit from you.
All right. Thank you. I think in the world of refugee resettlement, I think there is often a misperception among the public that this is a program that benefits refugees because it's providing them with safety, security, a new start in life, an opportunity to thrive in America, but we don't focus enough on what refugees bring to our communities and what other immigrants, by the same token, bring to our communities, and how, when they're here, it is so important to be inclusive of all people in our community. And, once again, I just have to point to the New York Times op-ed piece that appeared on April 23rd about immigrant kids adrift and the challenge that we all face in making sure that we are safe and secure by virtue of including everyone in our society and making people feel that they do belong in our society. We're threatened. All civil society is threatened when citizens feel threatened by people who are different than they are, by the other, and they don't know and don't understand why people are here and have not really taken the opportunity to get to know who they are. So to me, the clear importance of integration for immigrants and refugees is that the other becomes the we, all of us together in a cohesive society. So I think it's clear that it's a two-way street and it's a benefit for everyone involved.
Well, thank you. I'm going to ask the next question. I would like to explore the receiving community idea a little further. And I'll start with Petra. Petra, you describe local hosts and mentors as ambassadors. And what that does is it puts the onus on the receiving or the host community to lead the way. And so my question is, what has been the impact of this approach to Erfurt? Is it creating a more receptive culture in the city?
I don't think so. It's not only a receptive culture. In times of globalization, people don't just stay in their own countries. As we know, people travel a lot. They work in other countries. People of different nationalities get married. We all live together. But in hundreds of years, countries develop their own identity. And nobody should give up his own identity, his own nationality, his culture and traditions while staying in another country. So we must learn to accept differences, to be tolerant and see different cultures as an enrichment and not as a danger. And our hosts want to feel the international students welcomed in Erfurt. They want them to feel that. They want to give them the feeling home of being included in family life. And most of our students, they are young people at the age of 19 till, let's say, 32 or so. Maybe they are the first time away from home for a long period of time, the first time in their lives. And there might be problems. And in this situation, it's good to have someone to ask for advice or support. That's why we call our project a project of hospitality and tolerance. And on the other hand, you know, in German history, not everything was good. It's not the fault of our generation that there were 2 world wars which started from German ground. We want to show people from all over the world that we are happy to welcome everybody in our country, especially in our wonderful city of Erfurt.
That's wonderful, and this dynamic of young people and families has been a tremendous dynamic there. So how about you, Jan? How are programs like Boise's International Summer Youth Program changing local attitudes?
Well, like Petra said, I think that there may be a presumption in the question that local attitudes are not as welcoming as they should be, and that may very well be the case. But I think that programs like the International Summer School have been successful because people are very open to the idea of intercultural learning and meeting people from different parts of the world. We were somewhat selective during the first year of the program to make sure that the American-born children came from families who wanted their children to be there. I think in future years we will open it up to be anyone who's interested in meeting kids from other cultures would be welcome, and they certainly are. It was just such a small program to begin with, but and we all want to know that what we're doing matters. That we are, if we're out to change local attitudes, we want to have some way of measuring that kind of success. And as I mentioned in my presentation, we don't have a whole lot of evidence at this point that there has been any significant change one way or the other based on a small, short-term program that we did last summer. But I think in the bigger picture of things, I think it's important to dig deeper into the larger effort that is going on in our city to become a welcoming city and a city of inclusion. And the Welcoming Cities Initiative talks about reaching out to the unsure and the untapped with a clear message that commonalities among people are much stronger than their differences. And I think that our experience here through our strategic planning process has been that the untapped are stepping up. They're learning ways that they can become involved. And the unsure are being exposed to a message of inclusion that hopefully will resonate and help make people feel more consciously open and welcoming. Again, it's a work in progress, and we need to have more empirical measurements to show that that people's attitudes are very positive.
Yeah. So one last question then for both of you before we open up the Q&A. I think it's interesting that both your projects focus on young people in education, school kids in Boise, international students in Erfurt. Yet in both cases, it's your local city government that's become an important partner. So my question is, why are programs like yours important to local government? And Jan, a quick answer from you.
Okay. I think there are a couple of reasons that I can point to. If and when municipal government sees its role, its function as the promoter of safety, prosperity, and well-being for all, then it's a natural next step to take action, like the Summer Youth Program or supporting refugee artisans or developing library programs for intercultural learning, all of which are happening in our city. The other thing I would say is that related to what we've been talking about, the understanding that it's in the community's best interest to promote inclusion and mutual understanding and respect among all people. And so, these are things that motivate our city government, at least. I can't speak for any other city government, but there is a perception that inclusion of all people, including our newest arrivals, is an important action that city government should take.
Yeah. And how about you, Petra? In Erfurt, why is your program important to your local government, your city government?
Although in Erfurt we don't have many migrants, as I said, just around 3.7% of the population, but we call it a place of diversity. There's even a sign at our city hall. And Erfurt is proud of this status. And the initiative Strangers Become Friends, with its students and their activities, contribute a lot for this reputation. This is good for the reputation of the city in general. And I guess this is also one of the reasons why local politicians, ministries, and the city council support our project, including financially, which is very important when we organize activities, when we want to print brochures, flyers, make films, and so on. And some of these politicians, for example, they are hosts, ministries give us money, and we can use the rooms in the city hall or the other buildings for free. We can show our photo exhibitions and their locations and many more things. And one important point I would like to point out, the Ministry of Economic Affairs and lots of other institutions are currently working on a policy of inviting skilled migrants and integrating international students who got their qualification in Germany, in Erfurt, to give a boost to its economy. And there are many jobs at the moment that go unattended due to lack of skilled labor. And our international students could partly fill this lack. Their knowledge is on the new standard. They have the intercultural competence, and they know German, and of course their mother tongue. And when a company in Erfurt, for example, wants to cooperate with a company in China, a Chinese student could help a lot. Strangers Become Friends and its partners organize contacts between Thuringian companies and members of the project. So both sides benefit from the cooperation. So the local government is, of course, very interested in being a part of our project.
Yeah, so it's a win-win situation. Well, thank you very much, Petra. Thank you, John. We're going to move now to our public Q&A. We have a lot of questions have come in on the whole question of recruitment. We have Ella Henderson from the city of Guelph here in Canada, who asks Petra a little to talk about the recruitment, selection, intake, and orientation process for your host families. And I'm going to bundle some of these questions together. So I think let's talk about recruitment in the host community to start with.
Okay.
And Petra, perhaps you'd like to answer that question.
Okay.
A bit more
on the one hand, we have brochures, flyers, which you can find in different institutions, at schools, at work, at the doctors, and many other institutions. On the other hand, I'm a member of a great network in Erfurt. So, for example, we have a Center of Migration and Integration where 40, 50 different organizations, clubs take part. I give them our material. I present our project. Mostly I take international students with me who can talk from their own experience or sometimes hosts. Yeah, and I introduce our project at many different places. But to be honest, at the moment I have more hosts than students. On my list there are almost 400 names of hosts, but I have only 247 students.
That's a great story. How about you, Jan? A similar question here from Cheryl Shapiro. She says, how are participants recruited? Will there be follow-up during the school year and next summer? And if so, in what way? So do you want to take that question, please?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. And recruitment, last year, the experience was that we, for the refugee children that we were targeting, we were looking for new arrivals, recent arrivals to our city, families that had been here less than a year or so, and also children who had been having social adjustment difficulties in school that could benefit from a bit of a summer program where there was some connection with American-born peers. So it was the recruitment of the refugee kids was not difficult. We have resettlement agencies, 3 of them in Boise, that have close contact with refugee families. We also have an adult language learning program for refugees, so parents were given information about the availability of this program for their children. So we had no problem recruiting the refugee kids. it was basically a first come, first serve for those who met the criteria. The American children were more, we were, as I said, we were more selective about that because we wanted to be sure that the first year of the pilot was as successful as it could possibly be. So we did some outreach to schools and some parents that are known to the planning group to see if their children would be interested in participating, and that came through, but it was not, it took some extra time, as I mentioned again in my presentation, to actually get 10 American-born kids in the right age group to participate. The American kids have so many options for what they do during the summer. It's lots of competing activities through many of them through Boise Parks and Recreation as well. So, and in terms of keeping contact throughout the following year, I think that's a wonderful idea. I would like to look at how we might be able to do that and see, whether it's, any kind of comparison of achievement in school or social adjustment that we could look at to see if there's improvement, if that's been an area of need. But we haven't done that yet, and so hopefully by this time next year I'll be able to report back and have a little more information about that.
Petra, Rene Boo asks, are students made aware of the program automatically when they register at the beginning of their semester?
Could you please repeat the first part of your question again?
She asks, are students automatically made aware of your program at the beginning of the semester? How do they learn about the program?
Yeah, I see what you mean. On the one hand, of course, we have a homepage and we have contact with universities in many different countries. And students who come back to their home countries from Erfurt, they share their experience and they say, you must take part in this project. This is one thing. On the other hand, at the beginning of each semester, we have a so-called introduction week. So I present our project on the basis of a PowerPoint presentation, similar to that one, but with more pictures. I present our project and I give them the flyer and the brochure. And as I said, we have 500 international students in Erfurt. Half of them, 250, take part in our project. And this is optional. They don't have to. But they apply for our project because they have heard and they see what we are doing and they enjoy it a lot.
Great. Now I have one more question for you, Petra, from Debbie Harrison. She says, can you give us some more detail about how the partnership between the university and the city works? What is the role, specifically, what is the role played by the university?
Yeah, it's very important that the inhabitants of Erfurt realize that we have so many different cultures, so many different international students in our city, and that's very important in my point of view.
Very good. Now I have a whole group of questions that have come in about some of the challenges that you may have faced in setting up the program. For example, Gladys Tiffany asks, do either of your programs have to deal with resentment among native-born populations towards the immigrants? And if so, how do you address that? And we'll start with John.
No.
I have to say that I am not aware of any resentment toward the program or toward those in attendance to the program. I would ask anyone to perhaps contact Paul or Tara to see if they have any knowledge of that kind of an attitude. This was not one of the things that, again, in the recruitment process, we did not actually advertise this particular program on the City of Boise's Parks and Recreation website. We chose to do a little more selective process in terms of the families that would be participating and supporting this by sending their young people to the program. So not aware of any, not that it couldn't happen, I would say.
How about Petra? Have you had any pushback or had to deal with negative sentiment in the community?
I personally not, to be honest. I've
think-
never heard about it,
Isn't that
fortunately.
wonderful? Very good. All right, so I have another question here from Sarah Osaba. She applauds efforts to integrate refugee youth right away. She notes that when youth are marginalized in their school environments and don't receive the skills required to make a living, their future prospects aren't very good. So let's see if she gets to a question. So she applauds your program and its focus on youth. We've got a question here from the University of Guelph. So she asks you, Petra, from an institutional perspective, how long is the official relationship of the student and host? And how, I'm going to publish this to the screen, so how long does the relationship typically last? And have there been any risks associated with your mentoring relationships of having students meet hosts? Do you have, the context is in many voluntary organizations, a screening process is involved when identifying volunteers such as your hosts.
Yeah, how long do the relationships last? It depends on how long the students are here in Erfurt. Some of them stay just for one semester, others stay for 1 year, others do their bachelor's here in Erfurt. I'm also a host, by the way. My former student is now my colleague. Hasnain from Pakistan started in 2004, so we are good friends since 2004. We are good friends since then. It's different, of course. But sometimes, I must tell you, these friendships, these partnerships last even for 10 years. When students go back home to their home countries, hosts and students are still in contact via email, or they visit each other. That's really a very good thing. Risks, sometimes there are misunderstandings, and of course not everything is 100% perfect. Especially with Muslim students, sometimes small problems, I would say, occur. And because our hosts are not aware of different culture and behavior and things like that, they don't accept this, then I have to find new hosts, but that won't be a problem. But like everything in life, not everything is just only positive, you know?
Yeah.
And may I add something to the first question? I realized it just now. So partnership between university and city, how we support, for example, our city or institutions. Quite often I get questions from companies whether we have students, let's say, from Afghanistan who speak a language where we don't have Pashto, for example, or Dari or so. Or there will be guests in Erfurt from Poland or the Czech Republic. Mrs. Evelyn, do you have students who can work as a translator or so, especially with Chinese students? It's quite often because we have also companies which work together with China and so on. This is a great support. Not only in cultural things we work together.
Very good, thank you. And John, do you want to answer that question? Or actually, let's go. We're actually almost out of time. I'm going to ask one more question, and this question comes from Onyeka, and she asks: Europe as a continent has been seeing a rise in anti-immigrant sentiment, especially in Greece. She asks, what part do you feel the relatively stable economy of Germany has played in the success of the Strangers Become Friends program? And perhaps, Petra, will go to you first, but I think this is a question for John too. Have the challenges of the current economic environment had an impact on your program? Starting with you, Petra.
Of course it has an impact on our program because there are quite not quite a lot, but some students who would like to stay here in Germany to find a job, but especially in the eastern part, it's not so easy. I know around 10, 12 students who found a job in the western part of Germany, but of course our aim would be to keep them here in Erfurt.
Mm-hmm.
And this way we have to improve our program, our project.
How about you, Jan? Has there been any local impact on your programming?
Well, the state of the economy is a huge factor in the success of refugees integrating. As I mentioned, the goal of our program funded by the federal government is early self-sufficiency. That's economic self-sufficiency through employment, leading to long-term social integration. When the employment situation is as tough as it's been for the last 5 years, it's extremely challenging for people to be successful and to join the mainstream and become prosperous. So it's a huge factor in refugee resettlement. It's also a huge factor in the ability of people to integrate. And the truth is, whenever there are economic hard times, we see backlash against people who might be perceived as competing for the limited number of jobs. We haven't experienced anything that has been extremely harsh, but there are always sectors of the community that have some negative feelings about refugees during difficult economic times. It's changing. It's much better than it used to be. So we're optimistic that the future will show improvement, and that will be good news for immigrants and refugees.
Well, I think programs like yours, Petra and John, that are building bridges between communities and helping newcomers integrate are what are making the difference in all of our communities. So we're at the end of the hour. I'm going to ask you my one last question. It's a one-word answer type question, and that question is, what is the one most important secret to your success? If you could put it in one word, what would the one most important secret to your success be? How about you, John?
Partnership.
Partnership.
And collaboration.
For you,
2 words.
Openness and curiosity. What about this?
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you. Our time has run out. There are a few unanswered questions which we will send to our presenters and share with you later. On behalf of all of our participants, Maitri and Welcoming America, I want to thank our presenters, Petra Everveld from Erfurt, Germany, and John Reeves in Boise, United States. I'd like you all to imagine this excellent work being interpreted in your city, adapted by your organization, or changing your neighborhood. We'd like to hear your stories and share more good practices like these, so please stay connected.